Welcome back to Hello Nigeria. It's time for our second guest, who's joining us shortly. Who's joining us right now? His name is Temitope Adekoye, and he's the founding partner of Bilateral Communications, and he's also Adegbenro, Temitope Adegbenro, and
RASHEED ADEGBENRO.
RASHEED Adegbenro. Oh, I beg your pardon. It was technical error here. So he'll be joining us, and we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and we're looking at sustainable development in Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Adegbenro, let's look at Sustainable Development Goals. We know that there's about 17 of them that members of the United Nations are supposed to be a part of, or are supposed to work towards achieving between now and 2030. How well are we doing with regards to that?
Well, we don't need to search far. How well we are doing, we are not doing too well. Most countries were not able to achieve the MDGs, the first tranche of it, hence the current Sustainable Development Goals. One is happy that Nigeria has inched up a little bit on ease of doing business, but at the domestic level, quite a lot still needs to be done. Challenges concerning agriculture and feeding, concerning education, concerning water, these are areas that still need heavy attention. There's nothing on ground to really show that we might probably meet that deadline. The deadline here, to me, is yesterday. A couple of years back, we were talking of achieving Vision 2020. But Vision 2020 is less than 30 months away from now. So it shows clearly that giving dates is just throwing words in the air. How committed, how determined, how disciplined are we to achieve our mission? I think that's what is still lacking in this environment.
Okay, so now it's okay to have great and lofty dreams. Now, some of the things that are written down in the Sustainable Development Growth, some of the plans that we're working towards, they seem high and lofty, but they're very achievable. Now, with regards to having projects, we need to break them down into steps that would help the achieving of certain goals. What are the necessary steps we ought to have taken, or we ought to take, to help us achieve these SDGs?
Well, I think the global environment has set the goals for us. It's for us now to do what we call internal preparation to be able to meet those objectives. They are fundamental and they are key to good living style in our environment. One, there's a period of preparation when all information are put on the table to assist in taking an informed position. But where the data, the information are not available, you can only work by guesswork. And we all know the reason, the outcome of not planning. Not planning means you have planned to fail ab initio. So if our preparation is weak, we don't need to search very far. The result will be disastrous. And that's why we have not been able to meet quite a lot. Almost all our budgets have been wonderful. But when it comes to execution, the implementation component of it, that's where we fail, because people are working with very wrong data.
Speaking about our budgets, now the 2018 budget is already, we've seen information about the 2018 budget. Now, with regards to some of our SDGs, we know that achieving education, building up our educational standards is one of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we've seen that the United Nations required number for a percentage of the budget that should be allocated to education is 26%. And we're still doing single digits. We can see that even at 2018, our 2018 budget, it is said that we'll be having 8% allocated to education. What do you make of
Well,
such?
our country, our economy has been noted internally and globally as a very undisciplined entity. We don't like to follow rules. We know what we need to do to achieve good results, but quite often we fail to do that. Our spending for education, for agriculture, even the 2018 proposal, is still very, very low to take us anywhere. Other countries have done it, they are doing it, and they're making successful outcomes. So why can't we do it? I think that's the question each Nigerian should ask. You look at energy, for example. Without power, this country is not moving forward. But we don't seem to be too concerned when you look at the budgetary details. It doesn't show the level of challenge that is in that sector. So budget 2018 still lacks merit, not addressing some key issues in terms of allocations. Our budget for defense I think it's number 3 this year, among several other issues begging for attention. It just shows clearly that we are putting wrong priorities on things, priorities on very wrong issues.
All right, very true. Thank you very much, sir. Now, before we let you go, earlier this year, or a few months ago, we had a campaign on social media. People were campaigning for the Not Too Young to Run. And now many people have advocated or agitated that if we had younger people in government, a lot of all these are sustainable. In fact, the MDGs would have been achieved if we had younger people. Do you hold this school of thought as well?
I hold it with mixed feelings.
Okay.
One, leadership is not something that is thrust on you. We've had instances in Nigeria where leadership is thrust on people, even elderly people, and we saw the disaster the nation recorded. You have to possess the passion to lead. Not only just the passion, but the skill and the knowledge required in the 21st century to be able to drive a nation to success. Where that does not exist, it's a pipe dream. The clarion call for our leaders, we are quick to make reference to the first generation of leaders even before independence, who headed the regions, North, East, and the West. They were in their 30s. Adekunle Azikiwe was above 41 or so. But those were those days. They worked for it. You could see their testimonial. They slaved, they labored hard for it, and they fought for it. But the current generation of youths need to rise up to the occasion. First and foremost, they should demand and do that which is right. Otherwise, nobody's going to put it to them on a platter of gold. They have to be seen, youths have to be seen out there really working hard to achieve. It's like respect. You earn respect.
True.
If you don't do well, you can't get it. So youths to lead must show the qualities of true leadership, and they must be seen out there making sacrifices. Because leadership is about other people centered, other-centered, not personal. What have you done? You don't need to get into office before you show the signs and the symptoms that truly, if you are given the opportunity, you could truly lead. Quite a lot of sacrifice is required on the part of our youths in order to make that veritable change the whole nation is asking for.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, sir. There's so much, when we look at some of the items that are listed out on the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, we know there's ending poverty, hunger, and all of this is geared towards making our nations, our countries more sustainable. Now, we know that the official title for the SDGs is Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In your own projections, do you see us meeting at least halfway of the 2030 goal?
Well, 2030 goal, we might probably make some if there is a change of heart within the economy. Take, for example, food security, which is essential for livelihood. Agriculture is still very low. Less than 5% of the American population is committed to agriculture. And that 5% effort feeds the entire nation and also has very large export base. But here, we have more than 60% of our population committed to agriculture. And yet we are still challenged with food scarcity.
And we still get to even import some food. Exactly, food items.
To a very embarrassing level. So we need to tinker with our agricultural philosophy and strategy. First and foremost, the land tenure system has to alter. The last 3 civilian administrations are tinkering with the idea of abrogating the land use decree that vested the entire land ownership in the governor. Make land available to people, and let's see what the peasants, since there's no resources to embark on very large-scale agriculture, peasant contribution can do it. Take example, Iceland. Iceland is one of the largest exporters of milk-based products, milk, yogurt, ice cream, cheese, butter, and things like that. But you can never find a multinational milk company in Iceland. Almost every home has at the back of their yard some elements of cattle. They fresh milk every day, consumed for the family. The surplus is sold to a chain, and the chain propels. Yes, that's the way it's done. So you need minimal investment to kick this off. But we are going to wait for the large mechanized farming. That's going to take a lot of years because many other issues like health, education, energy are begging government for attention. So we can encourage peasant farming on a more robust level by making land easily available to families and people who are interested in agriculture. Where the governor holds the reign of control on land, people are interested in farming, but there's no land to use for it. And where there's land, it's damn too expensive. So if that's I think that's the starting block. Beyond that, we need to encourage what we call preservation companies. Because if you harvest tomato in very large quantity in the first year,
get bad.
It will go bad within a short time unless there are preservation companies which are driven by technology to preserve the farm output. That's what's going to encourage the farmers to return to the farm the following year. So beyond just farming, we need preservation companies. We need, within the value chain, we need processing companies. It's processing companies that will assure the manufacturers that there will be all year-round supply of their raw material for them to now manufacture food-based products. So if I go through this route, we might discover that agric, once demand is up there, you don't need to preach on the sermon. People go to the farm because they know there's a demand for their product. They will farm.
Very true. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Now, from your point of view, the Land Use Act should be,
yes,
be adjusted to take away that section that says that all lands are vested in the government. That should be section 1.
Yes.
All right. So let us know what your thoughts are. Do you agree with this? Do you think all lands should not be vested in the governor? And if you had access to your own land, will you actually farm? Do you think that our current day youth would see farming as a viable means of making income, or would they rather resort to other means? Let us know on Twitter at Wazobia Max with the hashtag Hello Nigeria. We've been speaking with Mr. RASHEED Adegbenro, and he's the Senior Vice President of CVL. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, it'll be time for us to look at Today in History. Please stay with us.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.